everyone, welcome back to the Book Cave with me, Jenny. I have my July wrap up for you all today, and I read a good bit of books this month, as well as all the vlogs you will have seen. They were pretty much all read this month too, so I'm not sure exactly how many books I read, but yeah, it was a good bit. I finished book 3 in the Noodle Shop mystery series, which is Murder Lo Mein. And I do like the fact that in this one, although we're still set in Asia Village, we do have new characters because this one is about a best noodle competition in which the Holy Noodle House is one of the competitors, and the other 4 are different noodle houses from around the area. And it was also interesting to see Ilana as the manager while her mother is actually still there. Because obviously in the last book, her mother had went on a trip to Taiwan. In this book, she is now back along with her mother, who has come to the United States for a visit. And I really did like seeing Amma. She was very funny and cute. And I mean, we didn't get to see a whole lot of her, but we did see a little bit. And I did feel like this one, I'm now starting to be able to figure out who did it. Maybe not too soon before it's revealed, but I did figure out who did it about a chapter or two before the actual reveal. And I do feel like Lana figures it out not quite as soon as you as the reader do, but relatively soon after that. And like as soon as she finds that final clue that tells her, 100% that this person did it, I feel like up until that clue, there can still be some doubt in your mind as the reader as well, although perhaps not as much as she has. And as with the other ones, I feel like there could have been some more sleuthing in this one. It just feels like there's not really a whole lot of actual sleuthing. There's not a whole lot of actual finding of evidence. Like almost everything is rumors and hearsay and basically the way she has observed people acting, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is something that I'm kind of like, I'd like to see finding actual, like, physical clues in a mystery. I don't know why I feel that way, but I just kind of do. Even though I do feel like none of her assumptions are off the wall. So that is definitely one nice thing about this. And yeah, I will definitely be going on to at least the next book this month because I can see this little thing here, Marina Books. That means I had to get it from a different county, and they are only available for 9 weeks instead of the usual like 15. And unfortunately, I accidentally renewed this one and the next one early, so they're due back even sooner. But yeah, I am enjoying it, so I'm not mad about that at all, and I am excited to continue on. Wonton Terror is a book 4 in the Noodle Shop Mysteries, and I am enjoying this series. I like how the characters are growing. We do learn more about Lana, and she kind of comes to realize different things about herself, and then her and her sister's relationship also changes, as well as the relationship with her and her parents, and her and Peter, her and Adam, and it's just really fun to see them all grow. And it's also fun to see the kind of world grow as well. This one takes place at a night market that is being hosted, and Lana and Peter are there as kind of the face of the Holy Noodle Shop to try to like get it to different people and maybe get some new customers. And yeah, so I did enjoy that part of it. And of course, as these go very quickly in the book, we have something happen. In this case, a food truck explodes, and this leads into Lana's investigation. And that's also another thing I like about this is that in every one, there is more or less a reason for her to be there. In this case, the food truck was very close to her, and the owners were also good friends of her parents. And so it makes sense why she would get involved, and it doesn't feel like that part is forced, as I do feel like some cozy mysteries, that part can be a little bit forced. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to get to any more of these this month. I will, however, obviously be continuing on. Immortal Dark follows Cadan Adain, her sister, her twin sister, I should say, June Adain, and a vampire named Susanos Sagad. And this takes place in a college known as Uxley, I believe is how you pronounce it, University, in which these different families gain power by having vampire companions. And yeah, this was definitely an interesting book. Um, None of the characters are likable. I don't think they're really meant to be likable, although they do all have reasons behind their actions. They're not necessarily easy to agree with exactly how far they go. Well, I do understand why all the characters are upset about what happened. I do feel like they perhaps took it a little too far. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. And this is going to be a trilogy. Books 1, obviously, and then 2, which is Eternal Rune, is out. Book 3 comes out either at the end of this year or the beginning of next. I'm not sure which. I've seen different dates for it. So yeah, I feel like this is a really good time to start this series. You won't have to wait too long to get your hands on the last book. And the way this book ended, I feel like everything was wrapped up quite nicely, but then the ending does leave a lot open for the next book. So I'm definitely interested to see how it continues and see if I like Susanos or Cadan anymore, and see what exactly I think of June, because a very light spoiler here, she is not a major player in this book. We really don't see much of her at all. We just basically hear about her and know that Cadan wants to rescue her. And that's really all you know about her in this book. So yeah, really excited to continue, and I will let you all know what I think of the next one. Vanishing World is Sayaka Murata's newest book that has been translated into English. And yeah, this was a ride. I will say the book was really good, and it did make me think, but up in like the very very end was just really disturbing. And yeah, although I do understand why it was ended that way, I just feel like there had to be a better way to do it. And yeah, but this follows Amane, who lives in a world where husband and wife are now considered family. Family in the way that you would consider your parents or your child, your siblings. And so having children is now done via science, artificially, and it is seen as taboo to actually be with your spouse. And Amane actually ends her first marriage over this because her husband wants to be with her, and she's like, no, that's incest, because that is how it's seen then. One thing that did get me, though, is that they're perfectly fine with having boyfriends, girlfriends, lovers outside of the marriage. And to me, that was just a little strange, given everything else and the fact that, it's not seen as something that is done anymore. And I felt like that was my main hang up with the book, is that, it said Amani lives in this world, and yet she has these feelings and urges towards anime characters and real people. But again, everybody does, it's just not towards their spouses. So yeah, that part, I did find it a little hard to wrap my head around to begin with. But once we get past that and get specifically into the third part, that is when you really see Sayaka Murata's strangeness, and just the idea of this world is creepy as heck. And one of the comments that Amani made, she was like, I just can't help thinking that this is a like conveyor belt for the most convenient type of people, that are most convenient for like the government and stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, I kind of saw that within about 5 seconds. And that's something, again, that Sayaka Murata is very good at, is that she can show that and not really have to say it, but like, her character kind of sees it and mentions it. But yeah, like I said, that ending just absolutely threw me, and was not something I wanted to read, is not something a lot of people would want to read either. So just be forewarned with that. You might want to skip like the last, I don't know, probably about 5 paragraphs to page if you read this, and just not put yourself through that ending. I did still give this 5 stars because just everything else was really good. And then, like I said at the beginning of this little spiel, I understand exactly why the ending was that, considering the themes we're dealing with. I just feel like it could have been handled in a much, much. The hearing test is a lit fic about a late 20s woman who wakes up one day and has really bad tinnitus in one of her ears, and she is diagnosed with sudden deafness when she gets this checked out. And this is not exactly what I expected. When we're introduced to her, we find out that she does musical scores for basically like student films and short films, some commercials and stuff. And so I was expecting her kind of like reflections on deafness and silence to be more about that. But in all honesty, there wasn't a whole lot about the deafness in this. There were certain things, like when she lost the ability to hear specifically men's voices, and there was that, and then when she kind of had issues with background noise, like when the radio was on, she had trouble hearing the other people around her speaking. But other than that, there was a lot more of kind of her feeling sorry for herself, and I suppose like trying to come to terms with the fact that she could wind up completely deaf. But yeah, just overall, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, and I could not relate to it as much as I thought I would be able to, although with the certain things I mentioned, I can, because I've noticed that myself, that I am losing like deeper men's voices are hard for me to hear, and background noise makes it very hard for me as well. And so, like, those two I could relate to, but the rest of it was just kind of a little bit out there. There were some really good quotes in this, and if you do like litfic, I do feel like this would be one you would enjoy. The Rebel Romanov is a biography of a little known, at least to me, member of the Russian and German royal family. So this is about Julie of Saxe-Coburg. I believe that's how you pronounce that part. She was a German princess by birth and married into the Russian royal family. She married Catherine the Great's second grandson, Constantine, when she was 14 years old. And this follows her through that and through the separation that they went through due to the way that he treated her, and just follows her life after that, and her life of basically trying to live a very quiet life. She's also one of Queen Victoria's aunts. And yeah, I didn't know that. And I learned a lot of stuff about that in this book. Like, I didn't realize her and all her siblings were all over Europe, like married into all these royal houses and everything. One of her brothers had married the heir apparent before Victoria, and yeah, I did not know that. And this honestly was very interesting, but I feel like it doesn't have a lot about Julie herself. It's more the people she surrounded herself with. There's thoughts her family had on her, very brief thoughts, and kind of like a general overview of what she went through. But it is mentioned in here that she destroyed a lot of her correspondence, and a lot of the people she corresponded with, she asked them to destroy her half of the correspondence as well that she sent them. And yeah, her grave was actually lost and everything. And it's like Helen Rappaport says at the end, she just wanted to be left alone and forgotten. And she did kind of get that, although we do have a pretty big picture idea of her life. And we do know, she had two children, and at least, and things like that. We know where she lived, and there are enough mentions of her when she traveled and things like that that we do get that as well. But yeah, this was definitely interesting. Definitely an interesting person, and I kind of want to learn more about the Saxe-Coburg family now, just seeing how much they affected the rest of Europe's royal countries with all these siblings. And yeah, I just found that very, very fascinating. The Hive is an Audible original, what I would classify as a techno thriller. It is definitely a thriller, but it has a lot to do with technology and cyber security and things like that. This was definitely very interesting. This is actually the first Audible original I have listened to, and unlike an audiobook, it's much more like you're listening to a TV show in the fact that there really isn't narration, that, the characters are simply saying their lines, and there is no, so and so waved their hand, or, anything like that. And it does have multiple voice actors as well. And honestly, I did really enjoy this. I thought it was very interesting, and I'm not sure if I'll listen to other originals. I do have a few that I was interested in as well, so I might move on to them. But yeah, so this follows a woman named Samantha Sloan, who was a troubled child and was sent off to a behavioral camp. And we find out some things about this camp throughout the whole uh, six or so, no, I'm sorry, eight chapters slash episodes that are in this. And we learn a lot more about her. We do learn a lot about how her mind works and how it had been made to work, to kind of put it in simpler terms. But yeah, I found this really, really interesting. There were parts that got a little confusing to me, and I do feel like at the end, this was left a little bit open as to what exactly happened in the past, but I do feel like we had enough that it was satisfying. So yeah, if you enjoy audiobooks and you haven't tried an Audible original, I definitely do recommend them. They're a different sort of thing to try out. And if you like thrillers, I would definitely recommend this one as well. I finished listening to Graceless Heart today. This is Isabel Ibanez's adult fantasy debut. Obviously, her debut works in general were Where the River Hides and What the Library Knows, I think is book 2. But they were based on Egyptian mythology, or I should say more like they were in Egypt and Egyptian magic. This is based in Renaissance Italy. Sorry. Based in Renaissance Italy, and it follows Ravina, who is a sculptress who can wield gemstones called night flames. I believe the gemstones and the night flames are the same thing, if I am understanding everything correctly. And she winds up getting into a predicament with the DeLuny family. And yeah, this was definitely interesting. It had a lot of different twists and turns, and it is set in a very tumultuous time in Italian history as well. So there was a lot of that. And then on top of that, you have witches, which Ravina is considered a witch. although she doesn't seem to have magic of her own. Or, actually, I'm sorry, I take that back. She does have magic of her own, but she can also wield the gemstones slash night flames. And then there are also vampires, werewolves, and fae. And I found all this very interesting. It was a very interesting premise. However, the magic part I felt like was a very small part of this, and I wouldn't go into it looking for the magical part. This is definitely more the historical and the political side of things. And the romance as well, I felt like was a little lacking. It just kind of came out of absolutely nowhere. And for this being considered adult as well, I did feel like the characters felt a little bit young and felt a little bit hot headed, I suppose is the best way to put it. So overall, while I did like it, it's definitely not what I expected going in, not what I expected from the first few chapters. And yeah, I do feel like if you are into Italian history, that you will like this. And I do feel like it has potential, and it just doesn't feel to me like it met that full potential. This is actually supposed to be book one in a quartet, that they're all supposed to be standalone and they're just set in the same world. So I do have hopes that they will get a little bit better as we go on through the rest of the series. Entered in the Alien Bride Lottery is my first alien romance, and this is actually two stories. We have Entered in the Alien Bride Lottery and then Christmas for the Alien Bride Lottery. And so these follow a race of aliens that basically got into a war with another race of aliens. And the second race released some sort of biological weapon that has made all the females of this race infertile. And so this first race found humans and found out that we are compatible. This does also have a fated mate element. And so basically, in order to protect Earth, this race has said, hey, any woman who is unmarried and over the age of 21 is going to be entered into an alien bride lottery. And if their name is pulled, they basically just have to compete in something that's kind of like The Bachelorette. It's actually kind of both, because you have multiple of the alien men and multiple of the human females, uh, human women, and they all try to basically match with somebody. And they go through these different games to get to know each other, see if they're compatible, things like that. And I do like the fact as well that this isn't forced. Like, if they do match and they wind up not being interested, no harm, no foul, they tried, and that's all that really matters. So, the first story follows Cav and I cannot remember her name now. I did record this earlier, but it turns out I had no sound, so I'm re-recording it now. But so basically, they get to know each other, and the woman is not interested in being an alien bride at all at first. She is playing to lose, and she chooses like the absolutely worst dress for her hair color, eye color, and it's just supposed to absolutely clash. But the funny thing is, it is the exact shade of blue that Cav's skin is. And so this is seen as her paying him a compliment. And they are also, of course, fated mates. He finds this out as soon as he smells her, because, of course, that's how it is through scent, which I feel like that's how most fated mate things are. But yeah, so I thought this one was relatively fun. If you like the kind of pageant part, the competing for a husband slash wife part, then it's pretty fun. Then the second one, which is Christmas for the Alien Bride Lottery, follows Lola and, again, I cannot remember his name, but it follows them. And this one, of course, is set around Christmas, and it is a little bit of a different type of games. Whereas normally there are, I want to say dozens of grooms and dozens of brides. In this case, it's much smaller. There's only about, I want to say it's 6 grooms and 3 brides, yes. And so the idea is that everybody is going to get paired up. And in this one, Lola is a recent college graduate and she is having trouble finding a job. So right now her job is to be a Christmas elf at the mall, and she is not very into it just because, she has to deal with a lot of people and everything. And then I find it quite funny that when they get transported, it's obviously very Christmas themed, so they have to like pick a tree and everything. And her suitor is purple, and one of her other suitors is green, and she picks the purple tree. Again, it matches him exactly. And their banter was very fun. I liked the banter in this better than in Entered in the Alien Bride Lottery. But yeah, this is a series I will be continuing with since I can read it for free. I won't be listening to any more of it because this was the only one I could listen to for free. But I will be reading at least a few more of them, because although I will say it's not like, oh my god, the most amazing thing ever, I do find it entertaining. And being a fan of sci fi, I do like the sci fi element of having the aliens. So that's all the books I read this month. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit the like and subscribe button. That way you'll be notified every time I post a new video. And check out my links to Goodreads, Fable, Discord, and Instagram. Of course, I'm not very active on Instagram anymore, but every now and then I will post a little something. They'll be on the end card and down below in the description. And I hope to see you next time in the book cave.